Hey everybody, back again for another spoiler review. I just reviewed the 1995 film Friday, starring Ice Cube and John Witherspoon and Chris Tucker. Now I'm reviewing the sequel next Friday. Uh, there's only a couple of recurring people here, and some haven't returned, and some will return in the third film. But let's quickly go over this. First and foremost, please like this video. Try to you know you know get this video to 100 likes. Share this with your friends. Let me know what you guys think of the Friday films. Follow me in the description below. Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, of course YouTube as well. Odyssey. Yeah, man, I love the Friday films. Like I said, reoccurring cast members: Ice Cube as Craig. We got John Witherspoon as father, Willie Jones. We got Tommy Tiny Lester Jr., aka Debo, plays Debo again. Um, but so far, those are the only recurring cast members. New members, uh, one of which makes a return in the third film. We got Mike Epps. I think this is the first time when I watched this movie as a kid. I think this is the first time I actually seen Mike Epps in anything, and I always known him as Day Day. So he plays Damon Day Day Jones, Craig's cousin. We got Tamala Jones as DeWanda. She's an incredible character actor. You've probably seen her in many other stuff, but especially in the late '90s, early 2000s, you've seen her in a fair amount of stuff growing up. I'm sure once you look her up, she's a very talented actress. You got Justin Pierce, the late Justin Pierce, who plays Day Day's best friend and co-worker named Roach. Like in most of the cast in all three Friday films, a lot of them had passed away over time. It took me a long time to realize this. Many people had to tell me. I think it was in high school. People had to tell me Justin Pierce had passed away a long time ago, like around the 2000s, mid to late 2000s. I'm pretty sure mid 2000s. You got Don D.C. Curry playing Elroy Jones, Craig's uncle. And get this, because there's three new antagonists involved in this film. The Joker brothers. You got Little Joker, Baby Joker, and then the leader, just Joker. And Joker is played by Jacob Vargas, who is a well-known actor. But I've been watching. It just wrapped up. I've been watching the National Treasure TV show on Disney Plus. It's alright, but eventually I will cover that. Pretty sure around July, for like 4th of July, because I want to review the National Treasure films than the TV show. I got some thoughts on this. I don't hate the TV show, but there's I'll get into it in the future. But man, there's like some stuff about it I question. But he plays the lead character's father, and that's like that blew my mind, because I'm pretty sure I've seen him in other stuff. I just never put two and two together, because he always had that beanie on his head that kind of cover his eyes, and of course he was quite young in this. But I was like, oh my god, that's the father on National Treasure. It's like, oh my god. I was like, I did not even. Oh my god, that's the father on National Treasure. That's Joker. Oh my god. That blew my mind. I was like, oh wow. But yeah, you got Michael Rappaport as an uncredited, appearance as a mailman. Michael Blackson as a angry customer. Of course, you got Clifton Powell as Pinky, a record store owner who is the boss of Day Day and Roach. Kim Whitley as the girlfriend of Elroy. Sticky Fingers as Tyrone, the younger brother of Debo. Amy Hill as Mrs. Kim, the Korean next door neighbor of Elroy and Day Day. And you got the Lady of Rage. That's her rapper name, but her real name is Robin Yvette Allen, who plays Baby D. She is so funny. You every time you see her, I'm pretty sure she's more recognizable as Baby D than her musical career. Cause I honestly did not know she was like a rapper, but you always know her as Baby D. And a few years ago, it came up on my Facebook feed because her and Mike Epps did this kind of skit thing that was so funny, where Mike Epps coming into like like a I want to say laundromat, but that's not accurate. It's more so like where you like go to have your clothes dried, cleaned by professionals kind of thing. And she's running the store, and it's like she's still reenacting the whole Baby D persona. And Mike Epps is like, that was a role. Like, it's like, you're not really Baby D. It was so funny. Look it up. It's so funny. They still got it. Their dynamic is so good. Oh my God. I still crack up for that. But anyway, story goes that, this is like at least a year and some change. Maybe like at most like a year after the events of the previous film. Of course, it's 5 years because this movie came out in 2000. It's 5 years, after the previous film, and this, of course, is not directed by the same director. Matter of fact, all 3 Friday films are directed by different directors. And this director, Steve Carr, this is his first directorial debut, just like Gary, was his first directorial debut was the first Friday film, and I wouldn't be surprised if the next the third film, the director of that, don't quote me on this, could be like his first directorial debut when directing that film. Not many people like the third Friday film as well as maybe like the first two, but it's it's still serviceable. Steve Carr, in case you're wondering, he directed Dr. Doolittle, can't say it, Dr. Doolittle 2, Daddy Daycare, Rebound, Are We Done Yet, Paul Blart Mall Cop, didn't even realize he directed that, and then the 2018 Freaky Friday TV movie on Disney. So, he had, a decent amount of movies, a few, actually, from that I've seen that I actually enjoyed. So, he's spotty here and there. But, after the events of the first film, word got out that Debo was supposed to be, breaking out of prison. If word got out so easily, this is my first kind of criticism. If word got out so easily that he was planning a breakout, how come there was no serious watch on him to make sure that he remains, because he's supposed to be spending 4 years in prison for what he did in the previous film, and of course, he ended up getting locked up, ironically, with his younger brother. Don't know how they end up going to the same prison. I wouldn't say that was impossible, but the likelihood should be low. But maybe it's because it's a local prison. So, but that's not even the half of it. how is it that he's managed to? It's not like Debo is dumb, but he's definitely resourceful. But he shouldn't be smart enough to break out of prison like it's Shawshank Redemption. Because somehow he just climbs over a big giant gate with, some uh, bed sheets, and it's like, and clearly you see guard towers, and it's like you seen like movies and TV shows in like prison break scenarios. They got stuff, even in documentaries, they got stuff set up to where they could prevent such a thing. Cause God, I know, I'm pretty sure like there's been like documentaries and videos about like people managing to break out of prison uh before, but when's the last time you heard about like a huge prison break? Uh uh I think maybe like El Chapo was the last one, but I think he kind of like it was like a tunnel or something. That it's been it was like years ago. It was like a I think that was the last time I ever heard something like that, because it's especially like you know you know after like especially after like 9/11 and stuff like that. I think like security is very tight, and they don't want anybody like tunneling out of prison or things like that, or you know it should be extremely hard. Uh, and of course, they managed it. Movies, you gotta suspend your disbelief in a lot of ways, but the word got out, so Craig's dad decides to have him stay with his uncle in Rancho Cucamonga, because the Craig's uncle won the lottery, so him and Day Day stayed, moved to use the lottery money to what's left after taxes, buy a nice house in a nice neighborhood, and whatever's left over they spent on Day Day's nice new car. And of course, there was a mom, but after she found out they won the lottery, the shock kind of, I guess she gave her a heart attack. So, you know, for a time it was just Elroy and Day Day, and of course Elroy has like a girlfriend played by Kim Whitley, and so of course Craig just couldn't believe this, because like I beat him up, he should be running away from me. So but not want to take any chances. So and they end up running into these guys right as they was about to take off. And of course, they managed to get away, and make it to the uncle's house. And it is the funny dynamic between John Witherspoon and he's also a stand-up comedian apparently, Don Curry. Their back and forth is hilarious, because they fight like they would be brothers, because like just antagonizing each other, because it's more so out of just bitterness, because Craig's dad was like, Mr. Jones is like I can't believe you won the lotto. He mentioned this in the third film. It's like, other people be like, you're relaxing in the French Riviera. It's like, you just the whole jealousy that, because of course Mr. Jones is like one of those kind of blue collar, hardworking 9 to 5 type of guys, but his older brother just kind of lucked into this and is pretty much coasting now, and it's just kind of like, I guess bitter because he kind of living a life that I guess he want, just so you don't have to go around just catching dogs punching the time clock, in and out kind of situation. So it's understandable. But so uh, they show Craig around the neighborhood, and then you see DeWanda for the first time, King Day-Day's car, and this honestly is part of the first funny thing in a series of funny things into this film, where it's like right at that moment, this is when the hilarious really start pouring in, because it's like, because he got a restraining order on this woman because he's pregnant, claiming it's Day-Day's kid, and of course he's denying it. You never know. It's assumed that she was lying because this never was brought up again in the third film, but he has a restraining order on her because, like, she's just crazy, and she pepper sprayed her. It's like a whole huge spray of mist, and he's on the ground just like hollering, and his father just nonchalantly like, yeah, I got pepper spray before, I know how long it lasts. So he pours, he gets the water hose connected to the house and sprays his son with the sprinkler thing, and it's just to get the stuff out of his eyes. And of course Day-Day explains that she was cool at first, but then it's like things deteriorated, I guess. And then he tells me that's not the whole part. I got a restraining order on her little sister, and Craig is kind of flummoxed because, like, why would you have a restraining order on the little sister? It doesn't make any sense. Because you don't know her. That's why you're looking at me like that. You don't know her. Because of course he's obviously big in stature. Like even compared to like Day-Day, who's already taller than Craig is. Because Craig is fairly, he's not short, but he's fairly average height. Like just at the point of 6 feet, while obviously Mike Epps is slightly taller. But Baby D is like up to his height, but obviously kind of like she's got some strength to her, obviously. And so Day-Day goes off to work while Craig lounges out in the house. Of course, he meets up with like the neighborhood, the girl next door. What's her name? Carla, played by Lisa Rodriguez, who I guess is her only role. She never cast in anything else. And this is the thing that always got me. That's why I kind of hope for a final Friday film, even though it's probably unlikely at this point because most of the cast that we've seen from like various points in all three films have passed away. The actors have passed away. They rotate a lot of cast members out, which normally is not a bad thing, but the main love interest, kind of like in a James Bond film, alternates. And Debbie, played by Nia Long, has always been the standard and has always been assumed that she would be the main girl that Craig would end up with because their chemistry was really on point. Not that the other two women that came later were a problem. It's just like it didn't. It's something that Nia Long did. It's something that her acting chops really made that character stand out. Here, there's nothing wrong with Carla. It seems it's like Craig will be at the age where he's sowing his wild oats kind of situation, and not that you don't see Craig and somebody like Carla, or even Craig and the next girl in the film, the next love interest in the next film, could not have something, but it seems like obviously the relationship, it just ran its course. It's more so like a fling kind of situation, more than likely, or they probably were item, but things didn't work out. If there was a fourth film, it could have been like a whole. It could be like a bit of like a plot point with Debbie and Craig. It's like he could say something like, "Why things didn't work out between us?" And she's something like, "Well, it's like we're young, and I still had, I was, going to college, and I was like, still like, and you were kind of stuck in a place, and like I needed more, and blah blah blah." That could be easily a plot point why they did not stick together throughout the third, all through three films. Uh, uh, but you meet Carla, who, here's the thing. Here's another thing. It's kind of like a small issue, but the second and third love interest all seem to have some kind of sob story, which you do feel for them, but it's like you're kind of like your eyes kind of gloss over because like you're not that invested in, because if the one things you're not invested in is these ladies' sob stories. I think that's why I probably put Debbie on a higher pedestal, because there's no sob story with her. She was just like a college kid who had like a sister who was down on her luck, whose mom was off to Vegas with her friends on like a girls trip kind of situation, and her life is pretty put together. She's very intelligent, very confident, and she's looking after her sister, even though she should have known better than to have someone like Debo messing around with her. I'm pretty sure that she probably brought it up, but you just never explored that. But there's only so much one person can do when somebody they know getting involved with somebody they shouldn't be with is a whole thing. We all seen or been through that experience, but you're not dwelling on that much of a sob story because it's not the focal point of the first film. It's just like an added thing that culminates to a bigger climactic ending. Uh, Here they trying to like I won't say force it, but it's just like, yeah, Carla is dealing with her mom had a nervous breakdown because her three brothers, who are clearly delinquents, keep showing up, and despite them moving, because they're obviously involved in like criminal activity and they can't get away from them, and it's like, why didn't you get a restraining order? You didn't want to, because that clearly could have solved, because it's like they could have solved a lot of Carla and her mom's problems if you are writing these three brothers off because of their criminal involvements and you don't want anything to do with them. Get a restraining order. So anytime they come back, they break in that order and they get immediately put in prison. Done. I mean, of course, not many people probably thought about that, when we watched it as kids. But the one thing we all agreed on was like, you kind of don't really care. She's just the love interest, just Sally to say. But so the mailman later on, because clearly Craig is interested in the girl, but he's trying to figure out a way to bypass the brothers, so he can try to talk with her. But the mailman comes over, drop off a letter stating that, and this a weird thing too, that they're planning on repossessing the house. The lottery money, after the taxes and everything, Uncle Sam get his share. They bought the house. It should be fully bought and paid for. So I don't know if it's just maybe the mortgage or something. That part is never really fully explained, because like it should be all bought and paid for, because that's the two primary things that they spent the lottery money on, is like a nice home in a nice neighborhood and a car. But on top of that, you're giving them a day to move all that stuff out, which never had to experience any kind of like, repossessing or anything like that before. But normally, things like this, you would assume you'll get like a week or a month's time to get your affairs in order and move out properly. Because you can't give somebody just an entire day, 24 hours to gather up all their stuff, find a new locale to move to before the bank takes the house. That's you're. I guess yeah. It's obviously adding urgency, but like I said, they should have bought and paid for the house. There should be no repossessing. Anyway, he he tried to text the letter to his uncle, but he passed out next to his girlfriend. After they was fooling around a bit. So he goes all the way to the record store where his cousin's working at and hands them the letter. And of course, you get this funny moment with Michael Blackson. This is the first time I've ever seen Michael Blackson in anything. But he's always that angry African that is like just tearing up the record store. I can get jiggy with this. It's so funny. Oh my God. He was so funny. Like, I always, to this day, if I remember him in anything at all, this will be the one thing I will always remember him as. It's just like the angry customer. Craig shows him the letter, but then while Day Day's trying to wrap his mind around this, Duana shows up with Baby D to try to find Day Day to take care of his responsibilities and stuff, even though clearly that isn't his kid. So Baby D chases him around like the back of the store in like a parking lot area. And then here's this part, like, was always confusing me because I don't know, I'm not saying it's not likely, but here comes Carla, just saunters on into this frame, and it's like, why are you walking behind the stores? Like, you're just walking on the sidewalk like normal. That part, that was very weird. It's like when you look at that, has anybody else thought that was weird that she just walks in frame behind a store and with like a whole bag of groceries just to talk with Craig? And she was like, oh, just passing by. And it's like, you're passing by behind the store? But Day Day makes a deal with Baby D because Baby D is obviously having a thing for Craig, even though Craig is like not interested. So he just bolts back into the store and try to hide. So this the last time you see these two sisters until the very tail end of the movie. So Pinky shows up, the owner of the record store, and gets into a fight with Craig, assuming Craig is breaking into his store without giving Craig a moment to explain himself. When Craig finally gets the upper hand and explains that he's Day Day's cousin, so it's no worries. But because this is Day Day's cousin, he blames this whole ordeal on Day Day and Rose by proxy for some reason, which is no grounds really. So he fires them both, which adds to the more problems because now there's extra, not even like a bit of income coming their way. So Craig gets the idea because he noticed earlier that the Joker brothers had this hydraulic pump that he assumes he's correct, but he made this wild assumption that there's clearly money in the pump. And Day Day brings up, it's like, you have no basis excuse me, you have no basis on assuming there's money inside. It could be anything. So they decide, because they had this little dog named Chico, and they decide to use Rose to distract the dog with food while Craig and Day Day tries to sneak in and search the pump. And clearly there was money is inside while the Joker brothers are having like a little small party with some girls. And of course he spends the so little precious time to try to talk to Carla and try to, this is where you get the sob story from her, which you kind of gloss over because you really ultimately really don't care. And clearly Craig doesn't either, because he's like, dang. So this is the way out, right? Because like it's funny, but it's like we clearly don't care. And it's like, it's like she's just a pretty girl, and it's like, sad but true. So while Day Day, feels like, oh, he's taking forever, so he assumes the worst. So he gets his friend to try to offer a distraction so Craig can have a way to sneak out, which kind of works. But now, once the Joker brothers realize, because this is it's one of the other funny parts that always stuck with me, where it's like they come in, guns blazing on Day Day and Roach, and they ask like, "What do you want?" Oh, we just came here and bought a cup of sugar. It's like, God, it still gets me every time. Every time, it always gets me. It's so funny. And of course, they notice that the pump is missing. So they take Day Day and Roach hostage, trying to figure out what happened to their stuff. Well, Craig already snuck back out, and of course, in the meantime, Debo tricks by because, and this is the thing, because you assume the dad is already on his way to work, but I guess he works on his own time. I guess you assume he's his own boss, but I don't know, because he clearly was working for somebody, because he's clearly supposed to be on his way to work, but he stopped everything after he stops to get some tacos, and Debo and his brother follow him and notice the phone number above the taco stand, and he tells his brother to call the shop, which you don't know why the shop owner would actually even do this or even know who Mr. Jones is, but he says like, "Oh, come quick, Craig's in trouble," kind of thing. So that way, he would turn around and go back. So that way because they sneak on board the dog catching truck, and so Mr. Jones goes right back to his brother's house to help his son. So once there, they try to hatch a plan to try to get Day Day and Roach out, because clearly while they tied up, they're just playing dumb, but it's so funny. It's like, "Please, sir, it's Friday. I know what freaking day it is." It proceeds to smacks him aside the head. And it's like, the whole thing is just so funny. But then they decide, it's like, "Oh, okay, y'all want to play games? Fine." He sends his brothers out to the tool shed to get a chainsaw, because because obviously they're criminals and everything like that, and they're looking for their money. And of course, thanks to it shows Craig's kind of leadership, because he has a plan. He's really a take charge kind of guy. So he gets his uncle and father to distract and knock out the two other brothers, while he takes on the Joker brother leader, and Dede's father unties his son and his friend, and while they get the upper hand for the moment on the Joker leader. You talking about Deus Ex Machina, where Devo just after waking up from behind the dog truck, he just rises up like the creature from the Black Lagoon or something, and knocks out the Joker, takes his gun, and threatens like we're going to have a rematch. And of course, he's trying to get his revenge. Chico comes in, another Deus Ex Machina, and bites on Devo while the cops come in because Elroy's girlfriend calls the cops at a certain point and surrounds everybody. And of course, they arrest the Joker Brothers and the escaped convicts, while at the same time, here's another thing that's kind of, obviously wouldn't be realistic, because you've seen plenty of CSI and Law and Order, a lot of cop shows. Craig goes back inside, gets the metal pump out, and just saunters through all the cops arresting all these bad guys, and it's like the whole place should be a crime scene, so nobody should be taking anything in or out, and they should be questioned on the whole situation. This is kind of like a way just to wrap up things nicely so everybody has like a happy ending, clearly. But it's like there's no way Craig would have walked out of that place with that pump, because he should have snuck it out a long time ago. Of course, he hid it away because he couldn't just run out of there completely with that thing without it going unnoticed, I guess. But he should have done that. But I guess Carla would have called that into question, but I doubt she would have raised any kind of ire about it because she doesn't like her brothers. But so they used the money to pay off like the the bank, so they won't repossess the house. But there must have been a lot of money to cover that, because it's like, who knows? It could have just been like $100,000, tops. Who knows? It's probably still wouldn't have been enough. Who knows that would have been enough to completely cover what, because they never specified how much they supposedly owed, even though the lottery should have taken care of the house in the first place. Like I said, it's very weird. It's like a plot hole. It's not even a nitpick. It's like a definite plot hole into the entire movie. So, everything wraps up nicely. Now that the threat of Debo is over, Mr. Jones takes Craig back home, and another Friday gone, another problem solved. But it's never explained, like, hey, of course, like, he says he's going to stay in touch with Carla and everything like that, but it's like, it's never really going to bear fruit, obviously. It's like you're never going to see that girl again, more than likely. So you're making promises you can't keep. So anyway, that is the end of Next Friday. Like I said, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of Next Friday, because I like it. A lot of people like it. Still isn't as good as the first one, but like I said, it's one of these kind of movies, kind of like Die Hard, where you use what you need in the time that you want to set it in. So it's like a single day or a single night that your story is unfolding, but you use what you can to get to a certain point A to point B to point C to point D. But even Die Hard has few plot holes here and there, but it's more tightly used. The writing is better crafted there, to where you're willing to overlook the few plot holes it has. Where this, there's a few, I won't say as many plot holes because you still get some enjoyment out of the film, but once you really analyze it, there's some stuff that really doesn't like I said add up. But anyway, like, subscribe, share this with your friends. Let me know what you thought of Next Friday. Now I'm going to cover the final film, Friday After Next. It's kind of a Christmas movie, but I'm going to cover it now because I wanted to do it last December, but I didn't feel right to cover that without the first two. So anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit.